Good Thursday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. A little later in the show, we will be joined by Cody Stoots, who covers the Texans out in Houston for 97.5 and 92.5 Houston ESPN radio stations. We will talk Texans Browns. We'll also be joined by Dennis Gates, men's basketball coach over at Cleveland State. Vikings schedule is out. We begin talking Browns, getting ready for the home opener against the Texans on Sunday, trying to get to 1-1 on the year. And some interesting news out of Berea as Reuben Foster will work out for the Browns tomorrow. Foster is a linebacker, was a first-round pick of the San Francisco 49ers a few years back, has not played in a football game in 2 years. Has played 16 games in his career, was a guy that was drafted by the 49ers, 31st overall, kind of fell down the draft board, was thought to be a mid-first round pick, had some issues off the field and some injuries on the field, but a talented linebacker from Alabama. The Browns do have a coach in Jason Tarver, their linebackers coach, who was at the 49ers and is familiar with Reuben Foster. So the Browns getting low-risk look at a former first-round talent. They'll work him out Friday, and we'll hear what happens from there. Let's welcome in Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. And Hayden, this is one of those things that I think goes to Andrew Berry, trying to improve the roster any way he can. A former first-round talent who's out there trying to get back into football.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Andrew Berry's done it with Malik Mcdowell, who has obviously come on very strong. He's now a starter for the Browns. Hadn't played football in 4 years. Reuben Foster hasn't played football in 2 years. The Browns, I wouldn't say they're weak at linebacker. It's just not their strongest suit. So I think Andrew Berry looked at the linebacker position and thought, okay, how can we do this? And Reuben Foster's a guy who's been putting on a lot of work. He seems to be out there and giving people all indications that he's getting ready to come back to football. So no harm, no foul if the Browns don't sign him, but definitely worth taking a look at a guy who's super talented. And again, if the Browns feel their culture is good enough to bring in a guy who's had some off the field issues, they've done it with Malik Mcdowell. There's no reason they can't do it with Reuben Foster. Yeah,
and again, a former guy that was projected by some to go mid-first round, ended up going 31st. So again, as you said, no harm, no foul. All right, some concerning news is the only way to put it as left tackle. So Jedrick Wills, day-to-day with that ankle. Now, Chris Hubbard has a tricep injury as well. So Alex Van Pelt discussing what the Browns are planning on doing at left tackle.
I don't know, honestly. I know we're getting James ready to go right now. So I'm not sure what happens on game day. We'll play whoever's available, obviously, and we'll expect them to play well regardless of rookie or not.
It felt like James was a little up and down in the preseason. Is that what you saw out of him?
Yeah, no, he's getting better. He's definitely an arrow-pointed-up guy. All the work he's put in already. When the day he got here in rookie minicamp, he's had one-on-one, practice with Coach Callahan and Coach Peters. So he's going to continue to get better. He's a guy that I'm excited to see if he does get a chance to play this week, to see how he responds to a real NFL game.
And James is James Hudson, fourth-round pick. And again, still some time, but obviously, Will's not able to go today, and also Chris Hubbard not able to go. So it's an area of concern. That's a blind side for your quarterback, Baker Mayfield, that left tackle spot.
Yeah, certainly an area of concern. The Browns have kind of had issues with left tackle going back to, when Joe Thomas retired. So I think obviously Jedrick Wills, it's a huge break that they didn't lose him for more than day to day. They brought James Hudson in to be, somebody potentially in the future who could, man one of those tackle spots. So I'm not super concerned. I think that either between James Hudson, between Chris Hubbard, and between Jedrick Wills, I think they'll be okay. It's not like they're going to be in an emergency situation where they have to, go sign somebody, or they got to, use somebody that doesn't play the position. And as Alex Van Pelt said, the standard is high. I mean, again, you got to come in and you got to play. The rest of this offensive line is fantastic. Treader, Bitonio, Teller, Conklin, they were the best in the league last week, according to PFF. So no reason that you can't, bring in a guy like James Hudson, and he'll get help from Bitonio. And you expect them to play well regardless. So I think you could see Wills. I think you could see Trent or Hubbard, or you could see James Hudson. It remains to be seen. So we'll see how it goes on Sunday.
And again, the thing is you got to get him ready to go, so it's not a surprise if he does in fact have to go on Sunday. So Odell Beckham Jr. will not play in Week 2, and not a surprise. Kevin Stefanski took that, announced it pretty early in the week. Didn't want to get where you dragged it out. And Jarvis Landry talked about the decision, and Odell, how anxious he is to get back on the field.
His situation, honestly, is really honestly between him and coach, and the training staff in there and his camp about how they're handling things. But I think the most important thing is that he's continuing to get healthy, and when he's comfortable enough, that he'll be out there.
Kind of off that, Jarvis, you battled your own injuries. Is it demoralizing or frustrating to think that you're at the finish line, like ready to go? And not saying that Odell had a setback, but just things change. Just like how frustrating is that to think that you're ready to go and then something happens?
Yeah, I mean he's a true competitor. So anytime the ball is out there and the whistle blows and it's time for a play to go, obviously he wants to be out there. There's no doubt in anybody's mind in this building that he wants to be able to be out there. But again, that's but his situation with coach and the training staff and how they handle it.
And Hayden, my read of it is Kevin Stefanski didn't want Odell to feel like, I got to come back in and help him win this game and save the season. And I think he took it out of Odell's hands to really, let's make sure you're 100%. And again, I think it's a pretty savvy move by a second-year head coach to realize that you don't want to let the player kind of get carried away with what's going on and make sure he's 100% ready to go with contact before you put him out there.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's Kevin Stefanski wanting to get his other guys reps during the week. I think it's a combination of Odell, not feeling like he's ready to go yet. He knows there's a long season. There's no sense in rushing this thing. I mean, they have two favorable opponents coming up in the Texans and the Bears, and no reason that they can't win those games with or without Odell. So I think it's a combination of everything. Odell just got to be 100% ready. And, the Browns are certainly the first to believe that we want him back when he's ready to come back. When he's 100% ready, the ACL injury is not one to mess with. Let him come back when he's ready so he can help us throughout the rest of the season, maybe 15, maybe he does get 14 games in, and maybe he only does miss 2 or 3 games. And maybe, then he can push him towards the playoffs and then in the playoffs. So there's no real reason for him to rush it back. There's, again, everybody was amped up for the Kansas City game because it was such a huge game. But when Odell didn't play there, it's like, okay, now you have no reason to really play him in the next couple of games. I think with Kansas City, we all just got duped in the media because we watched him practice every day, and we were like, man, this guy looks as good as ever. He looks as fast as ever. There's no reason he wouldn't play. Well, if his doctors say that he shouldn't play and Odell thinks that he shouldn't play and he's not ready mentally or physically, then okay, then I get it. So there is time. There's time. There's no need to rush him back at this point, especially after this Kansas City game.
Yep, agree wholeheartedly. All right, so home opener. So it'll be the first time in a long time that you will have First Energy Stadium filled up, loud. Anticipation has been building for over a year. So Joel Bitonio, who knows something about the history, longest standing, longest tenured Cleveland Brown, talked about his anticipation for the home opener and Browns fans.
Oh, I think it's going to be a packed house, and I've heard it loud a few times, but I think if we make some big plays, I don't know if we'll hear it as loud as it's going to be. I think we have a great crowd, and when the defense is out there, I expect to not be able to hear JC or Jed or whoever on the bench, and it's exciting though, man. I know the city's excited. I know they were excited last week, and we came up a little short, but you kind of feel it already throughout the town. I feel like it's kind of been boiling over, and it's our first big chance to, especially with Stefanski, he hasn't even seen the fans, so I think they're going to try and impress him as well, and it'll be exciting.
I mean, have you been out and about enough over the last 6 months that you can tell just how jacked up everybody is in this season? Oh
yeah, I mean that's it's funny, everybody's excited. They're always excited for Browns football, but you get an extra thing, and when you see some older guys around and stuff, and they're man, I was, there in 64 when they won, or I watched in 64, and they're like, I want to see one more before, And I was like, oh gosh, that's a lot of pressure. But no, you get excited about it. But no, it's excited. The town's excited, and it's really excited to be a part of it. You've been here. I've been here long enough now, that you've seen the lows, but it's good to be around hopefully some highs, and hopefully we can get them a win.
And if there is ever a Brown that deserves some of the highs, it's Joel Bitonio. I didn't even think of Kevin Stefanski has not experienced live and in person what First Energy Stadium is going to be like, and it'll be interesting to get his reaction. And I think he's in for a treat.
Yeah, this will be his first live look at 75,000 at First Energy Stadium, and it's a lot of it's going to be a lot of fun for him, I'm sure, to hear the home crowd. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun for all these guys. They haven't heard it in a while. Last year they were kind of buckled to 12,000, and that's not nearly what you're going to hear on Sunday. So I'm looking forward to seeing the fans back. I'm looking forward to hearing the fans back. I'm looking forward to all of it. And I think, again, Joel's right. They could very well be as loud as we've ever heard them on Sunday. Just be given the layoff, given what they did last year, given the fact they're back home. I mean, everything. I think Joel is exactly right. They could be as loud as we've ever heard them on Sunday, and I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I'm a little older, so I go back to what it was like in the 80s, and I think you're about to hear and find out just how big of a football city Cleveland is on Sunday. All right, before we go to break, Bleacher Report. One change each team has to make after week one. And for the Browns, that one change that they came up with was to focus more on the little things. So the key, focusing more on the little things for the Browns. Little things tend to add up to big things in the NFL. That's the one thing Bleacher Report thinks the Browns need to change.
Well, certainly. I mean, again, you look at last week, that's why they lost that game. Those little things. You got to catch that punt, or you got to catch that snap to punt it. You got to punt it when you drop it. John Johnson's got to be in a little bit of a better position against Tyreek Hill. Nick Chubb can't fumble there. I mean, they're just, yeah, you're right. It is the little things. It's a little thing here and it's a little thing there. A couple penalties. I think there was a holding that kind of held him back from a touchdown at one point. So, or from, continuing a drive. I mean, I think they're good and they've gotten a lot better at the detail-oriented part of the game. I think that's what Kevin Stefanski harps on. But you can't have those little things maybe against the Texans you can, maybe against the Bears you can, but I don't know if you can against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, and it showed. Even with three turnovers, the Browns still only lost by 4 points and should have won that game, yes, but it just goes to show that you can't have those little plays, you can't have those little turnovers and those little mistakes, and that's exactly what I believe Bleacher Report's saying. I completely agree. Agree.
Yeah, and the turnovers would kill you. You consider them extra possessions. Last thing in the world you want to give an offense that has Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce is the ball 3 more times. All right, Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, 3 Browns players to watch against the Texans. Plus, how about that Texans defense? Joel Bitonio tells us something that's a concern. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns getting ready for the home opener against the Texans Sunday, trying to get to 1-1 on the year after that tough loss on the road to the Kansas City Chiefs. Joel Bitonio talked about Houston's defense and what he has seen as they prepare for the Texans.
I mean, first and foremost, you watch them on tape and they just play really hard. The guys are really active. Jacksonville threw the ball, like 50 times or something like that. So they had a lot of pass rushes, a lot of games up front. And, they move quite a bit. So, they might not have the biggest guys up front, but they move and they get out of gaps and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, they change gaps on you. So it's a tough challenge for sure. But I think the main thing you take away is how hard they play, and they never really give up on a play.
And Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Hayden, when you look at the Houston Texans, they are not the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Browns just have to come and do the things they do, and they should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing against Houston. I think, again, the Houston plays very hard, as Joel said, and Tyrod Taylor has always been one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, underrated, and I was excited when he came here to Cleveland. And, he's got a shot. I mean, he's had so many bad breaks. Here in Cleveland, obviously, Baker was just ready to go. And then you had, the incident in LA last year where, his lung was punctured. I mean, just awful stuff. So I'm glad he's getting his opportunity. But that being said, there's definitely a talent gap between the Browns and the Texans. I don't think anybody's trying to argue that. So you're right. If the Browns can go out and do the little things and just overpower them with talent and overpower them with discipline, they're going to win the game. And that's exactly what they need to do. They need to play hard, play smart, play discipline, and they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, and the important thing to note, Jacksonville didn't try to run the football. You can be sure Browns won't make that mistake. All right, Sports Illustrated, 3 Browns players to watch against Houston. First on the list, David Njoku. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, David Njoku has been a surprise. I mean, it's only been one game, but he's been a surprise kind of going back into the offseason. Last year, a lot of grumbling about wanting to be traded because Austin Hooper was brought in. And they drafted Harrison Bryant, and now all of a sudden you got a 3-headed monster in Hooper, Bryant, and Njoku. And David has had his problems catching the football, and that's been his biggest pet peeve. The biggest thing against him is just his hands, and he's found a way to find the football, catch the football. And when you add that to his massive size, his athleticism, he's a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses. You saw it against the Kansas City Chiefs. So if he can continue to buy in and be a part of this Browns team like he wants to be, like he says he wants to be, I think the sky is the limit for what David Njoku can bring to this offense.
I agree wholeheartedly, and it's important to note when the Browns drafted him out of Miami, a young, one of the youngest guys in the draft. So still would be like a second year if he had stayed his entire time in the college. Would only be in his second year in the NFL. So still a young guy. All right, number 2 on the list, Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa.
Yeah, your Swiss Army knife, a guy who's going to be asked to do a lot of things in the nickel. He's going to be asked to blitz. He's going to be asked to cover. He's going to be asked to make tackles, make plays on special teams. So yeah, I'm excited to see GOK. I don't know if I would put him on the top 3 of players I want to see, but certainly you want to. Yeah, you definitely. He's an intriguing guy throughout the year because of all the things he can do with his immense versatility. So JOK is always going to be a player you're going to be looking out for, especially given his, second round drafting and given his athleticism, given his ability to tackle. And he's a very cerebral football player. So all those things definitely lend JOK a good look against the Houston Texans.
And the third one on their list is Greg Newsom, the rookie, played pretty well against Chiefs. Didn't hear his name, and if you're not hearing a cornerback's name, it means he's playing pretty well.
Yeah, we actually asked Joe Woods about that today in talking with him, and he was like, "Hey, Greg, he wasn't targeted much, but that's a good thing because that means he was doing his job, right? That means that he was, being aggressive. He was finding ways to keep his receiver covered, and I think he's done a great job throughout training camp, and he seems to be a sponge, continues to learn, continues to do everything that the coaches ask him to do, and that's why Andrew Berry drafts these guys. So Andrew Berry has a very specific kind of player he's trying to draft. And that's Greg Newsom to a T. Again, a guy that works hard, a guy that's very naturally skilled and gifted, and a guy who's going to do the job that he's asked to do. So, I don't know. Again, I don't know if if I'm going to disagree with them. I'm excited to see what Jadeveon Clowney's going to do against his old team. I think that's a big story. Jadeveon having a good week last week. I think that's huge. I'm excited to see what Miles is going to do. I'm excited to see what, Denzel Ward brings. But certainly the young kids, yes, certainly a good opportunity to watch them and what they're made of.
So the other thing that happened in week 1 is Malik Mcdowell continued to play just like he had in the preseason.
That's another one.
Yeah. Very first play, blew it up in the backfield, a guy that hadn't played in a number of years in a game. Joel Bitonio talked about what he has seen from Malik Mcdowell.
yeah, I knew he was out of it. And then I talked to him one day, and he was like, yeah, it's been 5 years since I played football. And I was like, I mean, that's amazing. And then you hear a story, you know, coach had him kind of tell a story to the team so everybody kind of had a better understanding where he came from. But I mean, like, I talked to Jack about him because early in camp you saw some flashes. You're like, man, this guy's pretty strong. This guy's pretty, you know, long, has the right body type. And you see some flash, and Jack's like, yeah, he was a beast at Michigan State. Like, when he was, you know, in his prime at Michigan State, he was killing people. And he, you know, he kept evolving. And then all of a sudden he's, you know, starting for us in the first game, playing well. It's pretty impressive, you know. I think you give people second chances in this life, and some people take advantage of it. And it's a great story that he's taking advantage of it, and hopefully he keeps it rolling.
And there were more than 1 or 2 times where you saw him in the backfield, and if he continues to do that, it's going to be good things for this defensive line.
Yeah, it's impressive on all fronts. It's impressive on the front that he hasn't played in 4 years, 5 years. It's impressive on the front that he's, you know, developed throughout training camp so quickly. It's impressive what he does on the field. I don't care if he's played yesterday or the day before or whatever. If he played last year, he's doing impressive things. So Malik McDowell, again, immense size, immense strength, and if he gets leverage, I mean, there's no chance you're going to be able to block him. So you really, really, really got to like what you see out of him, and he's only going to continue to get better. I mean, I think he's going to continue to get astronomically better. He's going to take steps and strides that maybe other rookies aren't going to take because, you know, he's a little older. He's a little more, you know, willing to get on the field no matter what the cost, just given his background and what he's been through. I think he's going to continue to take steps and leaps, and the sky is seriously the limit for him.
And it is fun to watch, so let's hope he keeps that going and keeps helping this Browns defensive line kind of climb up and be near the elite in the NFL. Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com and I are going to step aside and take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Jarvis Landry talks about his role as a mentor to young wide receivers. We'll also hear from John Johnson about the Texans offense. Sports4CLE, he'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions, lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns football to get ready for the home opener against the Houston Texans Sunday. So one of the things that you saw on the sidelines at Sunday's game, Odell Beckham was talking to Anthony Schwartz, kind of teaching him some of the finer points, showing him what he saw, trying to defend or how to counteract the defense that he saw. And it's really something that you see out in Berea with the Browns veteran receivers, Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, working with the younger wide receivers, and you've seen it pretty consistently from those two. Jarvis Landry talked about his role as mentor, his and Odell's role as mentor to the young wide receivers.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important, you know, especially in the early phases of a career. You know, I think, you know, a lot of the things foundationally have been set, you know, and that's probably what got him here. But just, you know, if you can take experience in any profession from a 5-year guy, from a 10-year guy, 20-year guy, you know, all the experience, if you can take those in at an early age, you know, you kind of get past that learning curve a little bit faster, you know, and that's something that, you know, I've taken pride in, Odell's taken pride in, just making sure that, you know, it's no information that we're withholding, you know, we're willing to give all the gems away to make sure that, you know, we can, you know, have guys that treat the game the way that we do, and the standard is kept to a high level in our room.
And Hayden Grove, that's not something that veterans always do with young guys, because sometimes they think they're trying to take their jobs. It has not been that way under Kevin Stefanski with the Browns at all, at any position.
No, I mean, again, I think Jarvis Landry was the culture driver here. He was the first guy that was brought in by John Dorsey to really start to change this thing around, and there was a reason for it. Jarvis Landry, a guy who embodies everything you want in a football player: tough, talented, smart, accountable, good leader in the locker room, a guy who gives his all every play. A guy who just gets it done, period. And I think that it's invaluable what he brings to this Cleveland Browns team. I think if you look at the Cleveland Browns and you want to, you know, a player that embodies the spirit of what the Cleveland Browns are trying to be, I think that is Jarvis Landry. And I think that, you know, shows in the way that he's able to be a leader for a guy like Anthony Schwartz. And you're right. Sometimes in the NFL, guys feel like they're going to steal your job. They don't want to help you out. Well, you know, Odell and Jarvis are the opposite. They're saying, hey, we want to win. We want this thing to be as good as it can be right now. So why not help a kid like Anthony Schwartz to take that next step? Why not help him to, you know, to get to the level that we want in our room? So, you know, continued great leadership, continued great culture by the Cleveland Browns, especially in that wide receiver room, to, you know, help a guy like that out. And it showed in that first game that he came out, made plays. And I think that's not in small part due to what, you know, Chad O'Shea, the wide receivers coach, plus Odell and Jarvis were able to help him with.
I agree, and it's a really good thing. It builds your depth, and it helps your young guys learn what they need to do a little bit quicker. Jarvis said it shortens the learning curve. All right, John Johnson, let's start looking ahead. John Johnson talking a little bit about what he sees with the Houston Texans.
I think, you know, this early in the season, I think you just want to, like, play physical and out-hit your opponent, you know, just build that brand of football, that toughness. Scheme is going to be scheme, but definitely got a different, like, personnel, you know, the type of players that they have. It's a little different, but I think it's just an out-hit week for us.
Is this a quarterback that you go up against who was here for a brief period of time? Do you have to pay attention to him pulling the ball down and running?
Definitely. And I think it's more of a, if he doesn't like what he sees, yeah, he'll put it down and run. Not a really design run type of quarterback, but he's definitely capable to get those yards, those hidden yardage on those busted plays.
He doesn't turn the ball over a lot either. Why is that?
He's a good quarterback. He's smart. He's been in the league for a long time. You know, he's been in different schemes, been with a lot of different coaches. I think, you know, he's just a veteran. You know, he wants to take care of the ball. Being a backup, you know, you never want to, like, try to do too much, try to be the hero or anything. So I think he just wants to manage the game, and he does it well.
And again, Hayden, I agree with you. I think Tyrod Taylor is an underrated quarterback. He's not going to hurt you, and he will help you win.
Yeah, he's not going to hurt you, and that's a huge thing. You're right. He's smart. He makes the right play. You know, sometimes I think, you know, maybe he's not a guy that's going to be able to win you every game, just doesn't have that kind of an arms talent or whatever, that ability. But he can certainly help you to manage, as John Johnson said, manage game very well and not turn the ball over and keep your offense in line. I mean, that's a big part of the football game. So I think Tyrod Taylor, again, I think he got it obviously in Cleveland. It was too short of a time. Baker was ready to go. He was the number one pick. He was breathing down Tyrod's neck. But I think Tyrod, again, proved on Sunday and continues to prove that he's going to be a guy that's going to go about it the right way. The offense is going to trust him. He's a leader. He works hard. That's what Joel Petonio was saying today, that, you know, Tyrod Taylor is the first guy in the weight room every morning and was there to help Baker when he needed it. And again, I can't wait to watch Tyrod again. I think it'll be a very, very, very good game for him to come back to Cleveland. I think he'll get a very warm welcome. And the Browns, again, they want to do what they want to do. They want to get after him. But Tyrod Taylor, again, a very, very underrated quarterback and a guy, just an ultimate professional.
Well, speaking of Taylor, he talked a little bit about what he sees from this Browns defense that he's getting ready to face on Sunday.
They have one of the better fronts in the league. You have Myles Garrett, who's premier pass rusher. Clowney on the other end, who has played a number of downs in this league and still is a top pass rusher in this league as well. And that's just not two of them. They also have the two Maliks up front, who do a very good job of pass rush or rushing the passer and getting after the quarterback as well too. So they have a feisty defense. We have to be clean in protection as well as in the run game.
And again, I think they're going to try to run the football a little bit more than Kansas City did. And, you know, they've got Mark Ingram, they've got Phillip Lindsay. So that might be the way they try to attack the Browns.
Yeah, I don't think that's a smart way to attack the Browns, to be honest with you. I think the Browns are super good up front with Clowney, with Myles Garrett, with the two Maliks, as Tyrod said. There's a reason they played so well against the run last game. I mean, you know, I know that there was new offensive linemen for the Chiefs, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is no slouch, and their scheme is no slouch. So I think that the Browns should be able to eat up that run game, you know, and nothing against Mark Ingram, nothing against Phillip Lindsay, nothing against, you know, Rex Burkhead. They have a lot of guys who just are kind of not what they used to be. And, you know, they're certainly good players, but you gotta, again, I think the defensive line for the Browns should have a field day, should be able to get to the running game, should make Tyrod Taylor beat them. And like I said earlier, I don't think Tyrod Taylor is a guy necessarily that's going to go beat you, especially if the Browns, you know, play offensively the way they should play. So, again, I have the ultimate respect for Tyrod Taylor. I think the Texans play the game the right way, but the if I'm the Texans, I would not come at it from that. I would try to mix up the run and pass, maybe play a Cleveland Browns type game where you set up the pass by, you know, a lot of play action. Maybe that's the way to go if you're them. You
know, the challenge is they have Brandon Cooks, but then there's not much else that threatens the defense. So it's a challenge. Joe Woods, Browns defensive coordinator, talked about the Texans offense.
There's definitely no letdown. You know, this is the NFL, so every week, man, is a different challenge. And these guys, they won the first game, so they're flying high. They're believing what they're doing. They're a very physical team. You know, they want to run the ball, establish the run, really win the time of possession. So schematically, when you look at them, it's not as complex in terms of the number of plays and the different type of plays as maybe a KC, but they do a really good job packaging their run game and their pass game together and making it all work.
Now, the one guy they do have is Laramie Tunsil, that left tackle, and he's a good one. But, yeah, it's a tough way to go if you're the Texans.
Right. I mean, again, they're going to have to be perfect in protection on Tyrod Taylor. They're going to have to get past, you know, again, this Browns defense, this is the opportunity. I know that the Browns, again, I didn't think the Browns played all that poorly against Kansas City's offense. Kansas City's offense is just otherworldly. Patrick Mahomes does things that no other quarterback in the league is going to do. And I thought they schemed up Kansas City pretty well. I think that the game plan was to keep everything in front of them. Everything was in front of them, all but one play, and obviously that's the one play that got the job done for Kansas City. So I think the Browns will scheme up the Texans very well. I think this is the opportunity for the Browns to show off that new defense, to say, hey, you know, we're here to play. You know, I know that Kansas City scored a lot of points, but we also put ourselves in bad situations with the offense. This is our time to show that we can, you know, go out and get after Tyrod Taylor. We can stuff this run game, and we can really just make this our game, period.
Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com and I going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, an update on Baker Mayfield and the contract talks. We'll also hear from David Culley, head coach of the Houston Texans. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns football with Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. So this is Jeff Howe from The Athletic, an update on the Baker Mayfield contract talks and not substantive talks, but from the Browns' perspective, they want to see Mayfield produce over a longer stretch of time in Kevin Stefanski's system. And also from Mayfield's point of view, they can take the slow game and say, okay, let's see how this plays out. There's no sense by either side to rush through things, but they could very well begin talks during the season. The important thing to note is the salary cap is going up and the price of an NFL quarterback is going to go up as well. So Hayden Grove, I don't think either side is in any rush. The salary cap's going up because of the TV money. There will likely be legalized sports wagering money that comes in and bumps it up even higher. The price for an NFL quarterback is going to continue to go up. It's just the way of the world.
Yeah, and you're right. There's no pressure on either side. I mean, at this point, Baker they extended him for this. They pick up the option for next year, so he's got at least this year and next year. And again, Baker Mayfield is going to want to bet on himself, right? He always has, and he's always won. There's no reason that he wouldn't do the same thing this time, to bet on his ability to play well. And if you're the Browns, then you're right. You want to see him play well, and you want to see him earn that money. There's no rush to get this thing done because I think it will get done eventually. But you look at, again, Baker wants more than Josh Allen. He wants a big deal, and the Browns want to give him a big deal if he earns it. And it seems like he's going to earn it, especially if he plays like he did against Kansas City. I thought he was brilliant against Kansas City. Outside of, one little trip up that he couldn't throw the ball out of bounds, I thought he was almost perfect in that game. So if that continues, he's going to earn that contract, and it's going to be a big one. And Cleveland's going to be happy. Their fans are going to be happy. Baker Mayfield's going to be happy. It's all going to be happy. There's just no sense in rushing it right now.
I agree wholeheartedly with everything that's said. I thought he played really well up to that interception, and I think he was trying to throw it away. And I understand people that say he's got to find a way to throw it away, but he had the look of a guy that was in control of Kevin Stefanski's offense. That's what you wanted to see. That's what you saw. And everything else will take care of itself. All right. David Culley, head coach of the Houston Texans, did a nice job. Texans looked like a well-coached team in their win against the Jaguars. He talked about the challenges of going up against these Cleveland Browns.
Well, I mean, they've got a defensive end there that that's a pretty good player in this league, and they also have Clowney, who are two good rushers. Garrett and he. It's a defense that I think has got a bunch of new players this year that they brought in. And I thought in this past game that we're watching the video of the Kansas City game, I thought they did a really nice job in that game of containing a very, very good offensive football team. And then offensively, they got a lot of weapons. They got a very good quarterback. They've got probably the two best combo running backs in the game. They've got guys they got skill all over the place and a very good offensive line. It's a big challenge. We kind of look at those guys as we talk about during the course of the year. You're going to play teams that are what you consider like playoff caliber teams, guys that have been there, guys that are expected to be there, teams that are, and we feel like we're playing one of those teams this week.
And Hayden, I agree, and that's kind of a sign that the Browns have arrived. People view them as a playoff team. Other teams view them as a playoff team.
Certainly, and they should. I mean, obviously the Browns won a playoff game last year and, competed to the very end in another playoff game last year. So that's two playoff games for the Browns, and David Culley's right. I mean, they set the standard for a lot of teams. I mean, you look at the Houston Texans, they were trying to rebuild a little bit, I think, and they that's how you want to be a team like that, a team that does the little things right, a team that works hard, a team that's well versed in every facet of the game in terms of offensive line, running backs, tight ends, quarterback, wide receivers, defensive ends, defensive line, linebackers, safeties, corners. I mean, there's not real one super big weakness on this team. And I think that David Culley is one of the many coaches in the NFL that's going to look at the Browns and say, man, how do you combat these guys? How do you come at these guys? Because they're so strong from all angles.
Before I let you go, real quickly, what do you expect to see from the Browns against the Texans Sunday in the home opener?
I expect the Browns to come out and have a day. Enjoy their fans, play smart football. I think you're going to see the defense really show up and get after Tyrod Taylor. I think the offense is going to pick up right where they left off. They're going to run the football to open up the play action pass. You're going to see a lot of great things offensively. I think this is Cleveland's moment. I know everybody was amped for the first game. I get it. But this is going to be an opportunity for Cleveland to return home and to show, hey, we didn't beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but we are ready to go. We got 15 more games after this one, and we are coming for you.
I agree wholeheartedly. Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Appreciate the time and the insight very much. You can read Hayden in the page of the Plain Dealer. You can see him on cleveland.com as well. Thanks, Hayden. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Dave.
All right, Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we're going to get the Texans' perspective on things. We will be joined by Cody Stoots from ESPN Houston. Sports4CLE will be right back talking Browns-Texans when we return.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. We're going to continue talking Browns and head down to Houston to get a little bit of the perspective of the Texans. We welcome in Cody Stoots from ESPN Houston, 97.5 and 92.5. Cody, appreciate the time. So the Texans 1-0 looked pretty good, defeating the Jaguars in Week 1. Have had to deal with that whole Deshaun Watson off-the-field situation. How impressive were the Texans getting that win, and what kind of stood out about that Week 1 win?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And what stood out is this was a well-coached football team, and you can't say that over the past couple of seasons with this Houston Texans team. Bill O'Brien and his coaching staff had underperformed in a lot of different ways. You brought in David Culley, who's a lifetime, not even coordinator. He's just a lifetime assistant coach, basically. He's the head coach of this team. They hire a pretty experienced staff. They keep Tim Kelly from the offensive staff last year. They add Pep Hamilton to the equation from the Chargers. And this was a well-coached football team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. David Culley was even angry at the few mistakes that they did make. And you juxtapose that with that Jaguars team that had to use a timeout before Trevor Lawrence even completed a pass in his NFL career to get set. They had multiple, 12 men in the huddle, just pre-snap penalties abound for the Jaguars. And then the Texans played a nice, clean football game. They had not been a well-coached organization and a well-coached team. So that was the first thing that jumped off the page to me. And then the second thing that jumped off the page is they played exactly how they want to play football games. This is not a talented Texans football team, so they're going to have to run the football. They're going to have to force turnovers, and they did that well against Jacksonville. Now, that's the Jaguars. That's a team that's lost now 16 straight in a row. That's not going to be easy to impose your will on the rest of the schedule, and certainly not a talented team like the Browns. But the Texans, if they could have drawn it up, it showed up about as well as it could have on Sunday for them in Game 1, and they're 1-0. A lot of people thought they might not even be 1-0 at a one-win team at any point in this season. So it'll be 1-0. That's a huge accomplishment, but they're ready to move on from that, and they're ready to get after this tough challenge that is the Cleveland Browns.
So there are a lot of familiar names, guys that used to play in Cleveland that are now playing for the Texans. Christian Kirksey, Pharaoh Brown, Eric Murray. Tyrod Taylor, the quarterback, was brought in to kind of mentor Baker Mayfield. Have you sensed that the Texans are kind of excited to face some familiar ex-teammates?
Yeah, I do get that sense a little bit. I mean, Pharaoh Brown talked about it this week, how he still has love for people in Cleveland. He still texts with people in the organization, and he was excited that they gave him an opportunity back in the day, and he's excited to show that he's grown as a player. Now, Pharaoh's a little dinged up after that first game, but he's an important piece of this Texans organization from both the way they run the football and who they throw the football to. You talked about Tyrod Taylor. This is just the perfect guy for the situation that the Texans are in. When you think about all the extra BS that the team deals with Deshaun Watson and the conversation around his future with this team, and Tyrod Taylor hasn't worried about any of that. This is a guy that's thrilled to be getting an opportunity without someone breathing down his neck, like Baker Mayfield in Cleveland and then Justin Herbert with the Chargers. Nobody is right behind Tyrod Taylor. Rookie Davis Mills is nowhere near ready to play. So this is Tyrod Taylor's team. They trust him. They love his leadership. David Culley was with Tyrod Taylor back in the Buffalo days, and he said that he's grown as a leader from those Buffalo days to now. He's a little bit more vocal than he used to be. Tyrod's sort of a lead-by-example guy previously, but he's had to kind of grow his leadership a little bit. And then you mentioned Christian Kirksey. This is a guy the Texans really trust. Lovie Smith came in, gave him the green dot on the helmet. He's the guy that calls the defense, despite being a free agent acquisition from this team this year. And then Eric Murray. Look, Eric Murray, I don't know how many teams outside the Houston Texans were going to pay him as much as they paid him, so he probably is not missing those Cleveland days, but I'm sure there'll be some hugs and hand pounds before and after the game on Sunday with a few familiar faces.
So Browns are 12.5-point favorites over the Texans. What's the recipe in your mind for the Texans to kind of pull an upset if possible? What does Houston have to do? We've mentioned it's not an uber-talented football team. How do they get a win on the road against a really talented Browns team?
So we don't know how this Texans defense is going to respond to a rushing attack that is going to challenge them and is as talented as what Cleveland possesses. Jacksonville had the 5th leading rusher in the NFL last year in James Robinson, and Urban Meyer's staff just decided to not run the football against this Texans team that was the worst rush defense in football last year. And if you think back to last year's game against the Browns, what was it, 230 yards between Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb on the ground? They are going to have to stop the run, and I'll be shocked if Kevin Stefanski is not trying to hammer Chubb and Hunt on the ground and keep the pressure off of Baker Mayfield. This defensive line and these linebackers, this front seven for the Texans, have been untested so far this season and in the preseason from a talented rushing attack. So that's where it starts, because if the Browns are going to run the football, it's going to be far more than a 3-point margin like it was last year. This could get ugly in a hurry if Cleveland's rushing attack goes unchecked. So they're going to try to force Baker Mayfield to beat him. Look, Trevor Lawrence made some nice plays in the first game against the Texans. He just made a couple of mistakes that I don't believe Baker Mayfield would make against this Texans team. There were guys running open, and Lawrence was missing them. The wide receivers were, had a case of the drops on Sundays for the Jaguars. I don't believe that's going to be the case with Cleveland. I know that there's, it's iffy on Odell, and Texans fans were happy that there's, a good chance that he's not going to play, but Jarvis Landry is still dangerous. And then just the physical abilities that the Cleveland wide receivers have, I think is something that worries Texans fans, because Vernon Hargreaves and Terrence Mitchell are the corners on this team, and that is not a talented group. The safety crew that the Texans have is getting a little bit healthier. Third-year player Lonnie Johnson is going to be a key player for this team, so the Texans are hoping he'll be ready to go after missing the first game and being banged up in the preseason. So Baker Mayfield may have the opportunity, and if the Texans can get it the way they want, they're going to try to force Mayfield to pick them apart and hope that Baker Mayfield makes a mistake that they can take advantage of. From the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be run, 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 run. Brandon Cooks had a huge game against the Jaguars, but a lot of it was off script, and I have to imagine that a more talented Browns defense is not going to allow Tyrod Taylor to be off script and make those big plays with Brandon Cooks. So it's going to be running the football. The Texans have 5 running backs on the roster. They'll probably take 4 into this game. Mark Ingram's kind of the guy, but they throw the ball to David Johnson. They do some trickery with Phillip Lindsay a little bit to get him the football. Tyrod Taylor can scoot a little bit, still got some mobility. It was kind of Deshaun Watson light in that first game with his ability to escape rushes and extend plays, and then he had a nice run in I think it was the third quarter against the Jaguars. So I think for that, they just got to stay within themselves, stay on schedule. Any sort of penalty, any sort of sack, any sort of pre-snap penalty really derails this Texans team. They do not have the talent to overcome negative plays, so they'll need to get into a lot of 2nd and 5s, 3rd and 3s and just try to make a play. And it's going to be methodical. It's going to be slow. It's going to be plodding in an ideal Texans world. If they have to play from behind, they just don't have the wide receiver talent to really get out and let Tyrod Taylor throw the ball a bunch. So they're going to need to keep this thing close, and they're going to need to run the football effectively. And this offensive line is much improved from last year, so they should be able to run the football a little bit, but they got to keep Cleveland off the scoreboard because they can't win a shootout.
Cody Stoots from ESPN Houston, 97.5, 92.5 as well. Cody, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Anytime. I think it's a close one on Sunday.
All right, Cody Stoots from Houston, giving us the perspective of the Texans. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will check in with Dennis Gates, head basketball coach for the Cleveland State Vikings. Cleveland State's schedule is out, and they have some tough road games. Wolstein Center also open for fans. We're talking Cleveland State basketball on the other side of the break here on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We turn our attention to college basketball, and we are pleased to be joined by the head basketball coach for the Cleveland State Vikings, Dennis Gates. Coach, as always, appreciate the time. Year 3, it doesn't seem like it's been that long. How excited are you to get year 3 rolling with the Vikings?
Well, I am very excited about this upcoming season. As a head coach, you learn how to reset from the very beginning to the very end and start anew because your roster changed, kids develop. But I'm definitely excited about this upcoming season. I'm excited to be able to have these doors open to our fans, our alumni, and our student body. The most important thing is being able to see things getting back to some normalcy and these students and our campus being vibrant.
You mentioned some new players, some guys back because of that additional year that you get. How excited are you? Tell us some of the guys that are back. Tell us some of the new guys you're excited about. What are the Vikings going to look like on the court when they get things rolling?
Absolutely. Well, super seniors are what I call these guys now. Aljavon Eichelberger, super senior. Well, he's a super duper senior, right? Craig Baudouin is a super senior. Torrey Patton, super senior. Those 3 guys being able to return and play another season, their 3rd season under our staff, I'm very excited about. But we also have some guys that have come through the program, right? Deontay Johnson, Trey Gomillion. We have guys like that who are definitely excited to be here. Demoy Hodge in his second year. But our newcomers, man, have done a tremendous job fitting in to our culture. Desean Parker, transfer from App State, Huber Heights from the Ohio area, 6'3" point guard. He does a tremendous job. We also have Brock Finstone from University of Pacific by way of Minnesota, small town in Minnesota, but he's a tremendous kid, about 6'5", 6'6" wing. Nate Jack, transfer from Florida State, Canadian. He's closer to that border than he's ever been, right? Because he's went to junior college in Florida as well as Florida State. Those guys transferring in from other Division I institutions we're excited about. Anderson Marambo, post player, JUCO transfer, one of the best low post JUCO players there is. But also Cole Middleton, high school kid, winning program, Pace Academy. We're excited about our newcomers, meshing them with our starters, but also that bench that we had, Yael Hill, Cleveland Heights, Jason Woodridge. Those guys who sub into the game have been crucial, and to add that dimension of transfers to our program is definitely going to be great.
Now, the schedule was released, and there are some intriguing matchups. You face BYU, Brigham Young on the road. You go to Cameron Indoor, and you face Oklahoma State. So those are three of the elite among basketball tradition. How excited are you? And, of course, you have the Horizon League, and you'll have plenty of those. But I would imagine your student athletes, when you say you're going to go play at Cameron Indoor, you're going to go play at Brigham Young, you play at Oklahoma State, which is Hank Iba Arena. How excited are the guys to be playing at some of those venues? It gives you an opportunity to go out and have some fun.
Where there's some unbelievable fan bases in those areas or those institutions that we're playing, from the student body standpoint, but also to their alumni and local fans. So we're excited to be in that environment. We think it will prepare us for our Horizon League tournament, but also our regular season, our Horizon League conference season. BYU is going to be a nationally ranked program. Hostile environment. Oklahoma State, NCAA program, hostile environment. Duke University, Coach K's last regular season game before they go into the ACC conference of his coaching career. That is something we are all looking for, and I think that environment will be top notch. But also Kent State University, Rob Senderoff does a great job, and I truly believe those guys will be prepared all four of those road games as we embark on a journey, because we hadn't been on the road against a team with a large fan base in this last season, and it will be something to get used to.
How important is it to build on what you did last year? NCAA tournament team, Horizon League. You did a couple of the things that you want to do. What do you tell the team when you get back and you get ready to get after it?
Well, first of all, we hit the reset button. Last year was last year. We're still building. We're still in the infant stages of building something special. And quite frankly, that was Team 2. Team 3's identity is completely different. The last game that we played last year, Team 2 did a great job. And I refer to them as Team 2. Although we have the same players, they got better. And they improved. Team 1 was my first season, and there was some learning curves there as a head coach, but also there was some learning curves there for our players, our staff, and we adjusted. We got used to each other. And if you combine those two seasons, Team 1, Team 2, we're looking for Team 3 to try to outwork each and every day, out effort, out whatever the topic is, we're trying our best to compete against Cleveland State University's Teams 2. And I think our guys have done a great job. We coming off our first summer we've ever had as a staff. And quite frankly, my staff, man, they do a great job. Rob Summers, Ryan Sharbaugh, and obviously Drew Joyce III.
And you look at it, fans coming back, we've touched on that. How excited are you about that? Tickets are on sale. You've seen underneath, we've been putting where you can go to get tickets. So You'll have the normal Horizon League schedule, some of those teams that everybody has become accustomed to. How excited are you for a quote-unquote, normal where you can have a bunch of fans at the Wolstein Center?
I am very excited, and I'll say this publicly. Team 3 needs you. Team 3 needs those seats filled because we're going to receive everyone's best shot. Every single team that comes into the Wolstein Center and on the road, we're going to receive their best shot. We need to create the best home court advantage, and we can't do it alone. We got to use our fans. We got to use our student body and our alumni. And obviously, in the sports tradition town of Cleveland, we need those sports fans, whether they are Cleveland Indians, Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Cavs. They need to jump on board and help continue what we have began in their absence, because these trying times we've had to endure, but we're going to need their help moving forward as we embark on this journey of this Horizon League.
Dennis Gates, we're going to call you a friend of the program. You are, again, always welcome. You have an open invitation. Let's talk again once we start getting some practices strung together. We'll have you back on. We'll talk Cleveland State basketball again. Tickets available. You saw the numbers. You can get them Cleveland State Vikings as well. Coach Gates, appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you out on the court. Thanks very much for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me. I can't wait till these doors open. Can't wait to see you all out there in Cleveland in the Wolstein Center. Thank you, and go Vikes.
All right. That is Dennis Gates, Cleveland State basketball, men's head basketball coach, definitely a friend of Sports4CLE, so we appreciate the time and the insight. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will see you again back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Doug Lesmerises, Kevin Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast, our scheduled guests. Have a great night, everybody. We will see you again tomorrow at 4 o'clock on Sports4CLE.